Exodus 23:23. My angel will go ahead of you and bring you into the land of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and Jebusites. We have looked at the Amorites and the Hittites. We saw that the Amorites stood in the way of God's people, God's purposes, and God's promises. The Hittites were great traders and invented the coins. But people lived in fear of them because they were the first to produce iron, which they used for their weapons. So the next ites are the Perizzites. Now this is going to be a short devotional. There isn't much info on these ites that I could find. So Perez was one of the sons of Judah by Tamar, his daughter-in-law, and was so named because though his twin Zara put out his hand first, Perez was the first to be delivered. And it's said that he had made a breach or broken forth, and his name means breakout. Perez was the father of Hezron and Hamul, whose descendants were called Perizzites. Now in Genesis 13 verse 7 it talks about Abraham and Lot's herdsmen quarreling, and that the Canaanite and Perizzites were also living around Bethel and Ai, which may refer that the Perizzites were rural inhabitants in contrast to city dwellers, and probably lived on the west bank of Canaan. Now it has been said that the Perizzites lived an undisciplined life with no standards and no discipline in their children. They also quarreled a lot. So what does that mean for us today? Well, we need discipline in our lives. We need to live by God's standards. We need to teach our children about God's ways. We need to stop arguing over the little things in life. We serve an awesome God who loves us. Today, don't be a parasite. We're also living around Bethel and Ai. What is it? Ai. Which may refer that the Perizzites were rural inhabitants in contrast to city dwellers, and probably lived on the west bank of Canaan. It has been said that the Perizzites lived an undisciplined life with no standards and no discipline in children. They also quarreled a lot. So what does it mean for us? We need discipline. Don't be a Perizzite. Okay, let's start again.
That's so going up.
I thought you'd stop recording.